So good morning, welcome to TechFast. Do you want to do the kind of next little bit, Alex and Yvette? Shall I hand over?
Oh yeah, that's 10-second warning. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, no worries.
I put this in for you.
Wow, that is quite something. Some neons, and the bird remains. Yeah, happy New Year. Well, we did a joint, obviously, event with Technotium in December, and didn't have a December edition ourselves. So it's been a few months before we've seen people. So I hope you had a restful and relaxing festive period and are ready to go. You know, a great opportunity, I think we were saying before, to have this session and really set your year off right. So all looking forward to it. And I host about us, if you have or haven't met us before. Usually Paul appears here, but he is a special slide into himself today as our speaker as well as host. But yeah, I'm Alec. I work at BGSS. I'm really representing today BGSS and TechFast with our mugs. Maybe some more further mugs will be available later in the year. What do you think, Paul? We'll refresh the TechFast mugs. But yeah, I'm head of international talent acquisition now at BGSS after the growth of the company. I'm based in Nottingham, but increasingly less involved in Nottingham in some respects. But you know, that's interesting and exciting times, which I'll reflect on, I guess, in our upcoming conversation. But yeah, outside of work, I'm my cat might make an appearance on my lap at some point during the session, and spending a lot of time on my food and wine exploits in and around Nottingham. Yvette?
Yeah, okay, so I work for a company called Rivermounts in Birmingham. I'm a business analyst kind of by trade. That's just what I was born into, but I do service design and visual thinking as well. I'm a massive fan of that, and design thinking as well. I'm soon to be a beaver leader as well, so that's a new exciting thing to put on my CV. I'm going to be a beaver leader for the little kids as well, and again, I'm trying to get them to be into more design thinking as well, so I'm trying to put loads of stuff into that as well. I love what I do. And I'm really excited about TechFast, and especially this session, because it's the best thing all year that I do. So I'm dead excited for Paul's session today.
Paul Bailey's #1 fan.
Yes,
I think. I mean, I don't know. You must have lots, Paul, but I'm saying that that's up there.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Next slide.
Next slide. Yeah. So there's two people that said good morning on TechFest Monthly. I thought I was shouting into the void as I said.
Three. There's another one out there.
Morning, Rob and Louise. So yeah, as part of the wider Tech Nottingham community, which is fantastic in lots of ways, they've allowed us a space to chat via Slack, and you know, talk as we go along with these sessions throughout the year. So please jump on there and have a chat, and I'll be involved in that as well.
If you want to speak at TechFast, the Slack channel is a good place to kind of put your interest as well, and we can help you sort that out as well. If you want to put your interest in there to do future talks for us. We've also got the YouTube channel. We've got 60+ subscribers now. It's going up. I think this year is going to be epic. We've got 4 more last month. So that must have been the previous talks that we've just had as well. So we've had some amazing talks. And if you haven't seen them and want to catch up, they are on our YouTube channel, so please go there, please subscribe, and then you'll be the first in the know for any other talks that we post up there, including Paul's today. So if you want to speak at TechFast, if you want to speak at TechFast, we're always looking for new speakers. You know, whether it's your specialist area, whether you've got something that you feel that you can share with the wider community, whether you've done a really good problem solving exercise and you feel that everyone could benefit, you know, whatever it is, if you've got a passion that you want to kind of start speaking, it might be part of making your 2022 really awesome. You know, get in touch with Paul Bailey, as I say, put it on the Slack channel. We can help support you in that as well. So if you're very brand new to speaking, we can help support you and give you some tips and stuff like that. We've also got a really good talk that her name escapes me right now. Miss Jess White. We've also got a recording of that, and again, so you know, all tips and hints there. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you, especially from the Knots community, because that's where we're trying to kind of like get everyone involved and sharing their expertise to help promote our Knots Tech.
Here he is. The main
Here
man.
he is.
Requires no introduction. What we didn't have is, to say, partly we're looking for speakers, but we do have a great and diverse range of speakers to kick off the year, of course. So we are looking for more, but yeah, we've got a great lineup which we'll obviously share in future, unless there's anything else you want to say about that, Paul, thus far.
Yeah, so we've got some talks lined up around visual thinking, somebody who's a creativity coach, kind of semi-famous guy called Paul Boag, who's going to come and talk to us about web
say Paul
optimization.
Bailey.
No, another Paul, who's going to be joining us in June as well. So it's looking, and I'm trying to line up a guy who's a magician who talks about user experience. So that should be something to look out for, hopefully later this year. Right, shall I kick off then?
Yeah, over to our speakers today. Paul Bailey. We don't need to change, cables and switch screens. So seamless, absolutely
seamless experience.
Yeah.
So good morning. It's wonderful to see so many of you here at this time of the morning. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to share a bit of a personal story, I guess, to start with, and explain why I gave up on New Year's resolutions. And hopefully, with the help of Alec and Yvette, I'll debut the Design Thinking Dad Awesome Year Playbook, which is probably quite an enlarged kind of name for what it actually is. It's a couple of PDFs. But I'll show you how you can apply a bit of a creative or design thinking approach to creating an awesome year. And after that, I'm going to share some practical tips that I've kind of developed or evolved over the last kind of 3 to 5 years. And they've definitely helped me avoid slipping into kind of default mode and staying laser focused on the things that are actually important to me. So I'll share those with you, and hopefully you'll take them away and apply them to your own life. But first a bit of background. I'm Paul. I'm head of design for a company called Spark. I've been a designer for over 20 years or so. I graduated in 98. Gosh, that's more than 20 years now, isn't it? But that only occupies the working week, right? There's another 128 hours. And that's where my real job is as being a dad. This is a sculpture that one of my kids made, and if you're a designer, you can understand why we had to have a conversation about kerning. But it gives you a bit of an indication of the kind of things that I'm interested in, and in many ways, what I've tried to do, I think, over the last 5 years in particular, is take some of the methods and mindsets that designers use and actually apply them to being a parent. And actually other areas of life. So I'll kind of share some of those things with you today as we talk through the presentation. If you want to join in, there's these two, I'm calling them a playbook, these two frameworks that we'll be using in the exercise as we kind of go through it today. And if you want to download them, there's this URL here. I will try and post that in the chat without breaking everything.
I'll put it in the Slack as well, Paul,
Great.
already, so that's in there if people want to go there.
Great, we can stick that in there. And it's just PDF, you can download it and use it in the exercise as we go through it today, and I'll explain how it works. And you can win an awesome thing. No, this is a free thing that I'm going to send out to somebody at the end of the talk. All you've got to do is post something on Twitter or LinkedIn with the hashtag Design Thinking Dad. And this book is 240 pages of design thinking goodness. It's written by two guys called Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, who oversee design at Stanford D School, which is kind of a renowned school for design and creativity. And it gives a bit of an insight into how design thinking can help you create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling. And it gets 4.56 stars on Amazon out of 403 ratings. And the best review said, in my opinion anyway, it's a gem amid self-help dross. So I thought that was a brilliant summary of this particular book. So all you've got to do to win is just tweet or post something on LinkedIn connected to Design Thinking Dad. It could be something you get from the talk, something you're going to do, something you've already done and you want to share. Just post something out there. And at the end of the session today, we'll hopefully pick somebody out randomly, Alec, as a winner. Giving him another job there. It didn't know what he was doing.
That's fine.
I was going to call you my wonderful and worthy assistant, but I didn't get to that.
But I'm neither. Is that what you're trying to say?
So why did I give up on New Year's resolutions? And I'm kind of calling it like big bang change. I think the more that I think about it, the more that it feels like that's what New Year's resolutions are. There's a big commitment up front at the start of the year. Well, there's a bit of a context to this kind of story, I guess. So this is me on a family holiday back in August 2016. As you can see, we've got a full stack of Baileys there, pretty much. It's just the wife missing, who's taking the picture. And on the surface, I probably look fairly happy on holiday. The kids are all smiling, having a good time. Don't like random guys doing in the background what he's looking at. But anyway, on the surface, I kind of was, but underneath, I was pretty miserable, to be honest. I'd never really felt as low as I felt at that point. Despite my best efforts that year to kind of set myself some exciting aims and objectives, it wasn't really going to plan at all. And in work, I was really unhappy. I felt like I'd gone down a career cul-de-sac. I was working crazy hours in quite a toxic environment and I just couldn't see a way out. And this was kind of impacting my health, both physically and mentally. I wasn't really making the time to exercise and make mindful choices about living a healthy lifestyle. And at the same time, my oldest son had gone from being a really normal, healthy teen to be confined to a wheelchair, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. And we were going to the hospital to have all these tests, and it was putting a lot of extra strain on my relationship with the kids and with the wife, and all of that combined with the 4 kids as well. I just felt constantly short of free time, and like I was always rushing from one thing to the next without really enjoying anything. I guess in my mind, what had happened, I'd kind of slipped into this default mode way of living. I'd kind of falling into my own kind of pit of despair, and I just couldn't see a way out. I couldn't see a way to change my current situation, but I knew I had to do something. I just didn't know what. Luckily, I've got a really understanding wife, and she could see that I wasn't happy. And she said, look, take yourself off tomorrow, go and have a dad day, go for a walk, go and try and kind of sort yourself out and come back being, the person I married, not this kind of shell of somebody that isn't really there all the time. So the next day, I decided I was going to change my kind of normal routine. And instead of laying in until the kids woke me up in the morning, I got really early and I went for a walk. I thought, I'm going to go to walk. I'm going to change my routine. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I was rewarded, initially by this amazing sunrise, and it was like, wow, okay, this is a great way to start the day. This is a good idea. And as I walked down towards the sea, I tried to kind of just slow things down a little bit and just become a bit more conscious about where I was, and try and smell pine trees and listen to the sound of the gravel crunching and feeling the warmth of the sun as it was kind of rising. It was already helping my head kind of start to feel a bit clearer. So I decided I was going to head down to sea and I was going to read a book. And ironically, at the time, I was reading a book called The Art of Happiness, which is co-written by the Dalai Lama. And in it, he talks about human experience and how to apply some of the principles of Buddhism to everyday problems. I don't get it all spiritual here, but I think there was something in it, or something about the way that he was looking at the world that was resonating with me a little bit at the time. I could see he talks a lot about things like suffering and how that's kind of part of living. And I sat by the sea reading, and in the book, there's this one question that the Dalai Lama posed to the person who was interviewing him. And he asked, what in this moment is lacking? Now, for me, this was a really kind of quite simple and unassuming question, but it felt like a bit like a punch in the face. What was lacking? In fact, the only thing that was lacking was my presence and my awareness, really. My mind was so busy thinking about the past and projecting into a kind of future that was negative, and digging into this kind of pit of despair, that I'd forgotten that really all that there was that moment in time. And in a way, that this kind of present is where you create your future, not now, not next Wednesday, not next Wednesday, not next week, it's now, right? Now is where you make choices, and perhaps most importantly, you've got the power to choose what those choices are. So for me, it was a bit of a revelation. Maybe it was a slap of face that I needed just to kind of get out of the thinking kind of bubble cloud of negativity that I'd kind of trapped myself in. But I chose in that moment to commit to make a change. I was going to make a change for the better. I was going to change my life. So I knew there was some things like my job that I could probably change, and some things like the health of my son that I probably couldn't. So I thought, well, okay, well, what would a designer do? And I started with some research, right? So I read as many books on positive psychology, self-help, goal setting, creativity. I talked to as many people as I could do. I'll provide some book suggestions as well at the end of the session. There's 3 really.
Or can you pronounce the name of that author that's at the top on the right there?
Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi or something like that. No,
thanks very much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great book. He's actually an author of another book called Flow, which is all about how you find happiness in the things that you do. He spent 30 years interviewing hundreds of people to find out what made people happy. And it's this whole concept of flow that actually he came up with, which is really interesting. Yeah. What I learned though is I learned that most New Year's resolutions fail by January the 12th. Right? And I kind of reflected on my own experience, and I could understand why, right? We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to change, don't we? One giant leap at the start of the year. We kind of say, just because we say we're going to lose a stone or a pound, or we're going to exercise more, we're going to eat more healthily, suddenly all our behaviors are going to change, just like that.
Yeah, and it's always quite binary, like dry January. It's sort of, all or nothing, the restrictions that you put on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and then something happens, COVID, for example, and then everything changes. But our New Year's resolutions are kind of set, and we feel bad that we're not meeting them, even though the conditions in which we first kind of made the agreement have changed completely.
They all are negative as well, aren't they? I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. They're always like, oh, I need to be better at this. I need to be better at this. Do you know what I mean? They're all quite like, you're not very good at you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too, I mean, it is quite a negative exercise, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
It can be. I think it obviously depends on what kind of goals you set, but yeah, there's definitely something in there about it, almost setting ourselves up for failure. But anyway, while I was researching, I came across this concept called design thinking, and I'd heard about it before. And I'd read about like brands like Google and Apple and IBM that invested a lot of money in helping their organization become more design and user kind of focused to drive innovation and business results. But it's not something that I'd had the opportunity to actually apply in my own work. A place that I was working at the time was delivering in a very waterfall based model, and didn't really believe in kind of user research and iteration. But it's something I was interested in. It's something I connected with straight away. I could see how this kind of approach could work. And in a kind of simple way, design thinking is a human-centered kind of iterative process for creative problem solving. It starts with a challenge. So you start understanding what the challenge is, but then you actually take time to dig into that challenge and really understand what the needs actually are. So instead of jumping straight into a solution, you take the time to do the research and actually understand the what and then the why. Why does this person need this thing? Kind of dig into it in a bit more of a deeper level. And then you actually understand what the problem actually is. So by spending that time up front, digging into it, you've got that opportunity to then maybe redefine or reframe the problem. Maybe it's not what you thought it was, and maybe there's a different way to look at it. And then the second part is actually then about creating an experimental approach to develop ideas and test to see if you're actually getting the outcomes that you set out to achieve. And what I wondered, I guess, when I first came across this is what if I started applying this to everyday problems? And essentially for the last 5 or 6 years, that's what I've been doing. So that's all great, Paul. Nice story. But how do you apply that to something useful? How might we apply it to creating an awesome year? So let's bring ourselves to where we are. It's 29th, is it today, or is it the 27th? 27th January today.
We've lost 2 days already, Paul. Come on, this is meant to be a positive start.
Yeah. One of the things as a designer I'm always looking for is like people's descriptions of what design is. And one of the best descriptions I've found so far is actually from a Nobel Prize winning economist called Herb Simon, who was a pioneer in artificial intelligence and problem solving and complex systems. And weirdly, he was also the owner of the Indiana Pacers basketball team, which just seems like quite a mix. But anyway, he said that if you're working to change existing situations into preferred ones, you're designing. And to me, that really resonates. And I think a lot of people, whether they believe it or not, are designing stuff. They're taking something that's a current state and they're trying to create a better future state. And whether that's like a kitchen or I don't know, a beaver group or whatever it is, you know, you're looking at something and you're analyzing things and saying, oh, maybe that thing could be improved. How will we improve it? Well, we could do this, that, and the other. So in many ways, you're all kind of designers of your own future. And to kind of understand, I guess, how you make your 2022 awesome, what we probably need to start to do is analyze, where are you now? You know, what was 2021 like? Now, this is a bit of a weird question, isn't it, in a way, because 365 days is quite a long time. I don't know about you, but I can't even remember what I was doing last week, never mind last year. And a year is full of peaks and troughs, and some experiences are easier to recall and some you want to forget. But it's worth reflecting on that and thinking about, you know, why do I recall these things and not these things? And I've asked a lot of people this question, and I've had a really mixed response to 2021. Some people, it's been awesome, right? They've changed their life. They don't have to commute 2 hours into central London anymore, and they've moved out to the country and got a dog and go to the village pub at the weekends, and it's changed life completely. And for other people, it's been, you know, pretty awful. For one thing or another. So it's really interesting, that kind of polarity of people's experience, I think, over the last 2 years in particular, have been really interesting. But let's try a little experiment. Let's see if we can rate this. So what I'm going to do is launch a little poll and ask you that question. So I don't know if you can see a little poll on your screens. How would you rate 2021 on a scale of 1 to 10? So we've got a couple of 3s, a couple of 7s, a couple of 8s in there.
I'm not allowed to vote as a host, but I'd go for like a 7, just to. But that's it. There's probably a lot of research. There's probably a whole TechFest talk on poll bias. When you're asked this sort of question, everyone picks 7. I don't know.
I'm probably in a 5. I'm going to put a 5. If I was to vote, I'd put a 5. It's kind of like, it happens.
Okay, let's have a look at the results. Yeah, a good mix. Is somebody with a 9 there? Go on, whoever got that 9.
Yeah,
you're kind of getting right high up there on the awesome.
What would you say, Paul? Out of interest.
Well, this comes back to your poll thing. I'm about a solid 8.5, I think.
Got a 0.5. You've changed your own poll dynamics by adding a 0.5. You can't do that.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah. But I get your point. I think a lot of the time there is a kind of hedging, isn't there? I think, oh, it's not a 5, it's not a 10, it's about a 7. Yeah, I have that feeling as well.
Well, I think before reflecting on this at the end, it's an opportunity to say also, I think, how honest are we both with ourselves and open about talking about things? And I think that's one of the brilliant things about your intro into this, that you can share that time in your life where things weren't so great. And I think sometimes, depending on what company we're in or to ourselves, we're not honest about, the challenges that we have and sharing that and admitting, where we are, whether we are a 3 or a 4. So I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, I think particularly over the last last 2 years, isn't it now? But a lot of people are just kind of soldiering on, carry on, keep calm and all that kind of stuff. And they're kind of trapped at the home and they're pretty miserable. But it's hard to kind of see that or talk to anybody about it because everybody's in the same situation, right? So they don't want to hear you moaning about how miserable you are stuck in their house. Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think I'd encourage people to talk. Definitely talk. So how do you do it then? How do you think about the year? So one of the things that I've been using now is what I call the last year Orometer, and it's a simple way to quickly self-evaluate how you feel about how the last year went. It's got 4 sections. that encourage you to reflect on different aspects of your life. And that's quite an important thing for me. So I have a tendency to kind of perhaps focus a bit too heavily on work. So I'll think about the last year and think, oh, how did work go? And yeah, that went all right. But when you think about it, that doesn't necessarily, lead to happiness. And I think it's important that you consider these other areas, like play, love, and health, really. And I think if you neglect any of those things, then often you're kind of a bit out of balance and out of kilter, and you probably won't have the most awesome year that you could have. So this is part of the PDF that I've shared. I don't know if Yvette and Alec, you've had a go at doing it. I think one recommendation I would say is don't overthink it. Try and do it really quickly. Like almost don't engage with that bit of your brain that kind of gives you the guiding kind of, oh, I'll do this. Just like put it down like instantly. if you're going to put down about work, just don't, 2 minutes max to complete this whole kind of exercise. And actually, I think you found this, Yvette, haven't you? It's really good if you can do this with somebody else that you trust, and you both go through it together, because really the value in this isn't the actual filling in of the sheet, it's in the conversations that it starts afterwards. And we'll talk about that in a sec. So you both had a go, Alec and Yvette? Yeah.
Yes. I have.
So mine looked something like this, I guess. So work went pretty well last year. It was interesting. We grew. We did some interesting work. I enjoyed it. Didn't have as much time for play. I didn't get out as much, particularly. I really enjoy walking and getting to the Peak District, and I get much of an opportunity to do that, some, but not much. I got to spend more time with the family, but sometimes that was hard as well, being with them a lot. It's nice to have a bit of a balance. And my health was pretty bad. I think working from home really hit my step count targets. But overall, I think for me, like I say, it was about an 8.5. But I did that exercise initially in like, it must have been less than 2 minutes easily. And actually sat down and had a really good conversation with somebody at work about what they thought about theirs. So Alec and Yvette, how did you get on with yours?
Yeah, so similar in a sense, yeah. So I had work fairly high up there. That it's a great space. The biggest challenges are the growing so quickly as a business and trying to overcome that. But that's a great problem to have, even though it's challenging and maybe put in a few too many hours. So but still up there. I love the role and company. I think play. As we mentioned at the start of the session, if you're here, I do food blogging and write about those things, and I think both COVID has had quite an impact on that type of activity that I've previously done, but also that balance of work being really busy has shifted to say, have I got time, even though I love work and I'm happy to put the time in, I have a little bit less time on that sort of play element. Health is an interesting one because I resonate with you in terms of getting out there and doing things more, but I put mine right to the end because I thought my immediate, don't think about it too much, was, well, I am healthy. I don't have any major concerns. So I thought, even though I've probably done a bit less exercise, I thought, well, it could be, there's nothing really to complain about on the health front. So actually I put myself quite up the scale. And then I'm not great at talking about myself in some way. People would argue differently, but about personal things. And the love one is the most difficult one for me. That was the up and downs of the year. I reconnected with someone who I'd known for quite a long time, but then right at the end of the year, it sort of didn't work out. So I've started the year off perhaps lower on the scale, but at points of the year it felt like it was quite high. So that's a tricky one for me, and I'd probably put that the lowest of my metrics. There's no violins on the call, sorry, I'm not looking for sympathy, but yeah, that's on that would be the lower one. So that's what I'd still go for, that sort of middle, 7 sort of area. So that's my overview of 2021 for me.
How about you?
Yeah, mine was like, so work is just absolutely full on, and it has been full on for a long time. So I changed jobs in 2020, and then 2021 we had a big shift in the restructuring and stuff like that. So work was absolutely mental, but I was thriving in it. I love it. I love being busy. I love problem solving, and the job that I'm currently in is rife with it, problem solving, but to the point that actually you get to a point where you're just constantly firefighting. So even though I was thriving in my role and loving it, I was actually, there's a kind of part of me that's surviving as well. So I'm kind of like both ends of the scale there, in the sense that it's not quite working. So even though I'm thriving in what I'm doing, it did have an impact on everything else. So like the play, my play, I've kind of got on 2 bars actually, which is quite rare for me, because normally I play a lot, I do a lot of stuff, but because of the work, it had an impact on my time, my availability, my energy levels, my stuff like that. So I did a lot of playing with my son because I made time for that, but I didn't do a lot of playing with like my friends or you know what I mean, like, kind of doing my own hobbies and interests and stuff like that. So that kind of took a dive as well. My love life was actually really good, actually. I think because of COVID, I mean, there is that, I'm a very social person, so putting me in a house with only 2 people is quite stressful in itself, but it actually made us connect, like, and we talked a lot more. We sat at the dining room table and we talked a lot more about work, and we kind of understood a bit more about what each other were doing. So that kind of was really nice, actually. And we a bit more open than what we normally would be, I suppose. And you could see very subtle changes during the day, like if you were having a bad day or a good day, and we kind of supported each other through that, and like had a bit of a laugh and stuff, because we were both at home and we could do that. So that was nice. And then again, health is a bit of a difficult one, because again, like Alex saying, you look at the current situation and you think, yeah, I'm 100% healthy because there are so many alternatives right now, but actually, I've gained a bit of weight, I don't move around so much, that kind of stuff. So again, it's kind of like the perspective of the year that you're in now, because a couple of years ago I would have said, oh no, I'm not healthy because I'm not exercising, I'm not doing this, I'm not eating right, and this and the other. But actually now, in light of other things, my perspective is a little bit different, in the sense that actually I am really healthy. There's just a few things that I need to work on, like actually moving, that kind of stuff. So I still put myself as 5 or 6, because I know there's a massive imbalance at the minute that I need to work on. And again, it's just finding time to do stuff like this to make you refocus and kind of highlight, actually this isn't right, or I do need to do more of this, that and the other. So yeah, that was my year.
I think the thing about this, in a way, I would say the value is not necessarily in your assessment. It's when you actually take it away and start to think about why did you mark it? Why was it not all 100%? What was it about that thing that made you think about that differently? And then I guess thinking about
just on that, someone's popped an observation in the Q&A sort of section that that your average score was 8.5, but looking at your individual ones, and maybe like, oh yeah, maybe that, are you so is there something that is not on there that is a big factor, or is it just, I don't know, how do you look at that? That.
I mean, that almost comes back to this, isn't it? So if my score was that, why did I actually think my year was all right? What was it about it that was different? And I think sometimes, with that framework, sometimes you'll add things in as well, so you don't have to stick to just those 4 things. There might be another area of your life that is really important that you want to include as well. I think for me, that just helped me to think beyond work. And try and think, oh yeah, actually I've been spending too much time at work, and that's to the detriment of me doing things that I just enjoy doing. But yeah, it's an interesting observation, that I think. It'd be quite interesting to see if yours do that as well, if you mark your year higher than the individual elements or components and make it up. But I mean, the purpose of exercise in many ways is to try and understand how you felt about that year. So why did you mark the way that you did? And what do you want to change? So if you're looking at those different sectors of your life, if you think, maybe I'm spending a bit too much time at work, then maybe I need to kind of pick up that hobby again that I've neglected this year, or maybe I need to do that. I think it's a good way to start to think about how you're going to make 2022 more awesome than 2021. And then the important thing is think how you're going to change it. It's not only about what you're going to change, but how you're going to do it, right? So it's not just about committing and saying, at the start of the year, okay, I'm going to get more healthy. It's about, well, what does that look like? How do you break that down into smaller things, actionable behaviors that you can actually monitor and change? But for me, I guess it's just a way to dig into your inner thoughts a little bit. And while some of this stuff is difficult to talk about, I think if you can, and particularly if you can find somebody that you can trust to actually do this exercise with, I think you'll get a lot of value out of both sharing and talking about your experiences and almost planning together how you're going to make your year kind of more awesome. I think if you can find your awesome year buddy, it gives you that extra little bit of lift and support. You've got somebody there who kind of understands your current state and understands, where you're hoping to get to. So we reflected on the past year, and we've got a good idea of what a designer would call our current state, and with some ideas about how we want to change to live life more meaningfully. And that's the kind of past. But what about future? Sometimes this kind of blank canvas can be a bit daunting. We've got a brand new year. How do you figure out what you're going to focus on and what's really important? And again, I had the same kind of challenge there, same kind of problem. So I looked at creating another kind of framework, which time this one's called the Awesome Year Canvas. And as you can see, it's kind of split into 4 sections, and each section has got those 4 kind of elements that we've looked at in the first worksheet. So we've got work, play, love, and health. And the idea for me, I guess, for this was to create some kind of visual picture of how I'd like my year to look, and almost create like a map, if you like, or a plan of the kind of things that I wanted to focus on over the course of the year. So, and I guess the other aspect of this is to treat it as an iterative process. So just because I've done one doesn't necessarily mean that's the finished thing. So I've got a kind of rating process down there on the left-hand side in terms of how I feel about this canvas when I've done it. So my canvas this year, the first version 0.1, looked something a little bit like this. So I wanted to do a bit more speaking in throughout the year, really, and honing my skills in that kind of area. There's some things that I wanted to do around birthday surprises.
Was that a foreshadowing of political events or a lampoon of political events? I can't tell. Birthday surprise is now a hot topic.
We've got a big birthday in our house this year, so I wanted to try and make sure we did something a bit more special around it. I definitely wanted to get out a bit more. I felt like, I don't know, many people, I think we've been stuck in home and not being able to go abroad or go on holiday. So I was like, okay, well, let's be all in and see if we can actually get away this year and do some traveling. So this was, again, I didn't spend very long. This first iteration was literally like 5 minutes, just scribble something down. And then what I did after that is just noted, how did I feel about this? So did this energize me? Did I look at it and think, wow, this is going to be great. This is going to be a really great year. Did I get the balance between purpose and pleasure? Like I said earlier, I think I do have a tendency that I know to focus perhaps more on purpose and work-related things. And often the things that I do just because they make me happy get put to one side. So there's this whole purpose pleasure thing. And then is it doable? Is it something, if I create this amazing plan, how realistic is it? Is it something that I can actually do? And then based on some of the insights I got from my own reflections on the previous year, what are the 3 things that I want to really change to make more awesome? And definitely for me, I definitely need to lose a few pounds. I'd really like to spend a bit more time with the family, but going on adventures and getting out of Nottingham, and that was really important. And building close friendships as well. I think it's been hard for people over the last year and a half. It's been difficult to get together. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing people in real life again and spending time with friends. So, Alec and Yvette, did you have a go at creating your Awesome Year Canvas?
Yeah, I think Yvette's will be like yours with some pictures and more design thing. It's funny because I just wrote words rather than pictures. I prefer your version. I think a lot of, certainly like the first section is work for me. It's like working out from some of the areas of my life what exactly I want to do, and then achieving some of those. So I talk about love. It's like hey, what I don't quite know what I want, and that's probably part of the problem as a big part of the problem potentially. So that's a big thing to work that out. But I think I'm comfortable in understanding that and working on that. I think that similarly in play in a different context, because I've got quite a few facets of how I would look at that. So I spent a lot of time in my life on writing my food blog and making subsequent appearances. I was on TV last year, as I'm sure people are sick of hearing and mentioned at various points, which is really exciting. But actually, I've taken the opportunities that have come along there, but I don't know how much I want to focus on that specifically this year. I don't know if I want to move away from that and say, hey, that was a great period of my life, but I have other areas of focus now. And so I think a lot of it for me is around working that out and then working on that throughout the sort of year. So yeah, that's sort of how I started reflecting. I don't know, I'm interested if Yvette sort of approached it, just full on and more specific stuff than me, I guess.
I don't know, like, so I was, there's a few things that, like, I missed everyone's birthdays last year, which is like why they don't change. But I think it's because, like, I just didn't go around seeing everybody. It's kind of like, I just, oh my god, it's the birthday, I need to send a card. And it was always after the event. So one of the things for me was just to be on top of birthdays this year. It was like really kind of like little things that kind of, they didn't sit well with me last year, and I kept being really bad about it. Felt really bad about missing people's birthdays and stuff. So this year it's just like, right, make sure I remember everyone's birthdays. And again, like, I've got problems with my knees at the minute, so the exercise I was doing I couldn't do, and so it was a case of like, okay, well, what can I do? And then I thought, okay, I'll do swimming. So I started swimming, and I think, okay, January I start swimming. And then I thought, okay, at the end of the year I do want to start running again, so I've got the wolf run and stuff like that I want to do. I haven't seen my dad for 4 years now, and he lives in Cyprus. So again, I was just like, right, I want to go and see my dad. When can we book that in? And we looked at the calendars and stuff. So not only was it a holiday, but obviously seeing my dad and stuff like that. There's a lot of like personal development that I really, really, really want to do, and I'm really struggling to find time for it. It's kind of like all work and no personal development. So again, it's trying to fit that in and understanding how I do that, as well as kind of rekindling the play aspect in the afternoon with my kids and and stuff like that, and husband. I want to see my friends more as well. So it's kind of a lot of social stuff for me this year, because I do feel like I've been boxed in for so long. And and it's like Paul's saying, he wants to get out of Nottingham, when actually I just want to just do more stuff, maybe even within Nottingham. I don't even have to go that far. I saw someone the other day playing frisbee at the Sherwood Pines, I think it was, and I just think, why don't we do that? I don't understand why we don't do that. It's outside and stuff like that. So again, it's grabbing ideas of what other people are doing as well. I think I'm stealing a few of those. And we've got a big festival as well. So we were originally booked it just before COVID. That got cancelled. We transferred it to a year. We transferred it to next year. So the festival this year is going to happen. So we're super excited about that. And it's kind of remembering all those things are normal. Like booking all that sort of stuff in, really. And it's just, I think it's understanding. And again, like Paul's saying, iterative. So first of all, I thought we've bought a van. We're transporting a van, like most people in the UK at the minute, I think. But one of the things was, we were looking at, we could go to Wales, we could go to the Lake District, we could do this, that, and the other. And then I just said, why don't we just drive to Spain? Why don't we drive to Italy and stuff like that? So again, we're sort of like 3 versions in already now, because we're just like, wow, sod Wales, let's go to Spain or Madrid or something like that. And because it is possible, it's just, it takes a little bit more planning, but actually if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. You've just got to make it happen, haven't you? So, and I think with this process, it is about doing it in drafts. So doing what you think you can do, and then think, actually, I don't know, if what do you actually really want to do, if there were no limits, sort of thing. So so that was me, really.
I think that's a good
two more things I would say on mine. Oh, sorry, Paul, go on.
No, go on.
No, it was one, actually I was thinking about it. Other years I've sort of said, hey, I'll try to get to the gym or something like that, and I've realized I'm never going to be able to go to the gym. It's just not me. And so I need to give up on that. Hey, maybe I'll try the gym, but find other ways, because I love sport. So getting back into sport and doing it through that way, and embracing that, rather than forcing myself to do, a run or the gym, which just doesn't work for me personally. I think I've actually also give myself credit for things that I do achieve. So I've started off the year, one of my themes for the year, not having thought about it like this, but thinking back on it, was I want to be generally more environmentally friendly in my life. And I started off the year, and sometimes I'm quite impulsive, and around Christmas I thought maybe I'll get an electric car, and I got one this week. So I did it. I've got it, just done it. So I'm like, yeah, I should give myself a pat on the back for going, hey, I've embraced that, and I've done it. And that's one checkpoint on that journey of, hey, an ambition is to become more environmentally aware or friendly. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because we've got something that will help you with that in a minute. But I think coming back to your point of that is a really good one. It's almost like that first version is a starting point, right? You'll scribble stuff down, and I don't know about you, but I then put it in a cupboard for a bit, and then I'll maybe get it out the next day, and I think, actually, you know what? Yeah, maybe Wales isn't far enough. Why don't we go to south of Spain? I've always wanted to do that. Like, what's stopping us doing that? Nothing. Okay, well, let's make it happen. And then before you know it, you drive into Australia. But you can kind of like scale it up and scale it down. And I think if you start looking at this thing and asking kind of what if the thing that you planned to do wasn't possible, or what if you had no financial constraints, or what if you got granted 3 wishes by a genie? What might version 2 of your canvas look like? I think by the end of 2021, I was on about version 11, I think, of my canvas, because things happened during the year that we couldn't anticipate, and it meant that the focus of the year changed, and some of the things that we wanted to do we couldn't do, so we had to reframe and reinvent it. But I had something there to kind of reflect on and use to act as a bit of a guiding star about what was important. So we coming to the end, and I want to give you some tips to avoid slipping into default mode. And this is, you can call it all sorts of things, kind of autopilot, going through the motions, living on the hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it. I think, I've definitely found myself there a few times. And it's often because I'm focused on one thing and not making time for the other aspects of my life. And over the last 5 years, I've experimented with a bunch of techniques that helped kind of keep track of how I'm thinking and where my head's at, and make sure that I'm actually doing the things that are creating the change that I want to see, and actually help motivate when times get tough. So the first one is about, it's almost a mindset really, about having a bias towards action. So one of the things that I do every quarter is I reflect on my Awesome Year canvas. I always do a bit of a self-retro. What progress did I make over the last quarter? What did I like, learn? And what are my key objectives for the next quarter? Are they still what I thought they would be at the start of the year? Do they need to change? And it becomes a bit of a kind of, it's quite a good way, I think, to see where you've come and where you're going, but not thinking about it in terms of the whole year, thinking about it in terms of the next 12 or 13 weeks. But at the same time, on a weekly basis, I have an hour usually on a Sunday evening before the start of the week. And again, it's a bit of self-reflection, and I've got these kind of 7 questions that I've kind of come up with, which are focusing, I guess, on me looking back over the previous week and thinking about, did I look after myself this week? Did I care for my family? Did I look at the kind of objectives that I want to achieve, and what kind of things motivated me? What kind of behaviors should I stop doing? And perhaps most important questions are around what I'm grateful for and what I learned, because those are the things that you often forget or put to one side. But I've got these little sketchbooks. I have one, like a little moleskin sketchbook, one for each quarter. I've got 5 years now worth of gratitude and lessons learned. And I can pick through and look back and think, okay, well, I'm in January 2021. Where was I at 4 years ago, 5 years ago? What did I learn that week? What was I grateful for that week? Or what did I learn that week? And it's actually become quite a useful kind of tool, I guess, to actually see where your thinking was in like years and years ago, which is quite a difficult thing to do, I think, unless you document it in some way. One of the things that I've done has been really popular, actually, is like co-creating the year with people that you really care about. And I'm a big believer in co-creation and collaboration. I've seen the magic that can happen when people come together to focus on a problem and solve it together. And I think often when you do these kind of exercises, it brings people along on the journey a little bit. This is an ideas car park that we had in our kitchen for a while with the kids, and what we did like 2021 was a bit tough, so we captured all the things that everybody wanted to do on the ideas car park, and at the beginning of this year we then created a map, if you like. These are all the months of the year across the top, and all the things that we wanted to do we kind of mapped together as a family and created this kind of, well, I don't know what you call it, image that we printed it out, stick it on the fridge, and it means we're looking at the months, and actually these things are booked in already, so we're not getting to March and thinking about, oh, when should we go on holiday this year, or we're not thinking about, oh, what we're going to do for Isaac's birthday, or what we're going to do at Christmas. We actually kind of book these things into the calendar already, and of course some of them will change and they'll shift, but it's something that we've co-created as a family, and it means we've all got something to look forward to, and we're taking into account the needs of everybody. One other thing is maybe this is where it gets a bit geeky, but I'm quite a big Trello fan, and I'm actually quite keen on the whole kind of concept of agile and that kind of way of working. And I've tried to adopt some of the things that we do at work to track my own progress. One of them is I have a kind of Trello board. As you can see, I'm on Paul's version 2.1, I think, on this Trello board. And I use it just to dump everything that I need to do, all those thoughts where you're on your way home from work, oh, I've got to remember to do that thing tomorrow. And it kind of carries around in your brain. I just stick it in Trello, and it just becomes a way for me to not only tag what kind of task that thing is, but almost how much effort it might take as well. So any job that is, less than 20 minutes or something like that gets a 1. If in terms of how much effort it might take, if it takes a lot of effort or a lot of time, the numbers go up using the Fibonacci series. And if it's anything more than like a number of 13, then the task is probably too big, and I probably need to break it down into smaller things. But it helps me to prioritize tasks and almost just download stuff out of my brain, freeing up space to do more important stuff. And the other thing it does is it enables me to kind of measure my velocity, or actually see where I'm spending my time. What am I doing? Where's my time going? So this is what my time looked like in 2021. At the end of each week, I'd tally up those tasks to figure out how much time I'd actually spent in those different areas. And it gave me quite an interesting insight into what I was actually spending my time on. And also an insight into what's a healthy cadence, what's realistic for me to do in terms of amount of task time, if you like. So I've got a weekly average of 54.39. I know if I've got a week where it's like 66, 67, then I'm probably going to burn out if I keep trying to do that much. So I kind of need to measure it a little bit more. I'm sure there are all sorts of insights. Actually, if you do data analysis, you could probably start picking out all sorts of things that I've not highlighted. But the key thing for me was to kind of make sure that I had a bit of a balance between work and other aspects of my life. And this is coming back to your point, Alec. So it's easy to forget, right? All the good things that happen in a year. So again, using Trello, I have my own little yay me board within Trello. And what I do in there is every time something good happens that I'm either proud about or that I enjoyed or that we should celebrate, I just stick it in there with a little note and a picture. And you can see all these different things in there. And I've got like 3 years worth of these now. So I can look back over the years, and it's a really nice way of just remembering all the great things that happened to you or that you did in that year before. So if you want to learn more, these are 3 books that I'd really recommend. Make Time was by a guy called Jake Knapp and John Zaratsky. They came up with the whole concept of something called design sprints. The Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, they're the D-School guys that I mentioned earlier. They created a really great book called Designing Your Life, which is a really good entry-level insight into design thinking. And there's Change by Design by Tim Brown. So Tim Brown works used to work and retired now for a company called IDEO, and they're the leading thought leaders in creativity and design thinking space. I'm going to finish actually with a quote from Tim Brown, who's the author of that book. And in a way, this was one of the things that inspired me to try applying a design thinking approach to real life. And this whole idea about conducting experiments and looking for opportunities and actually measuring success by kind of impact and not on bank accounts, it really kind of resonates with me personally. So, Alec, have you been monitoring the socials?
Of course, Paul. Yeah, I've put all the hundreds of people into our random generator, and I'm delighted to announce that the winner is Helen Marshall from Twitter contribution today. So yeah, Helen, I can drop you a note if you follow us back, or if you want to let us know, and then we can be in touch and arrange the book.
So I think I might even be having a chat with Helen next week, I think. But if we can
does that mean they're null and void, out of the running?
Does that mean free postage?
Inside job.
Free postage there, yeah.
So yeah, Alan, if you get in touch with us, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of Designing Your Life. Thank you very much for entering the competition, and we're just about time. So yeah, if you want to stay
over time, Paul, time management is on your agenda for 2022. Put it on there.
Right? Should be. It's you two wittering on so much.
Sorry. You knew that before we started, so that was a that was a premise that you should have considered.
Just one thing before we obviously wrap it is, like, when you were saying about getting the family involved and everything else like that. So I did this exercise on my own, when you first introduced it, and I did it by myself and this something, and it was great and I loved it and this something that. But I got the most benefit when I involved other people, and I've even had family round and my brother round and my sister-in-law round and stuff like that, and we've all had these sessions where it's like, what do we want to do more with each other and stuff like that, because they're thinking the same thing half the time, and you just think, actually, why don't we just combine it? Or we all want to go to Skegness or something, so why don't we all just meet there, and then we can do other stuff, birthday celebrations and stuff like that. And so there is a real value in actually getting more people involved, and it's one of those things where it actually opens up more conversations as well, because we're not very good at sharing our feelings and stuff like that. And actually, when you've got more people around you, you're kind of more aware of what they're going through as well. And I've got a 7-year-old as well, and it has absolutely revolutionized how we go on holiday, how we plan our days, how we plan our weekends. And he puts his own sticky notes on there, and we make sure that we factor that in rather than just dragging him around thinking, oh, well, he'll really enjoy this, because half the time he just wants to play with his marbles, or he just wants to play with Lego, and instead of going to an all exciting theme park and stuff like that. So it is getting everybody involved. And when you go on holiday and when you do these things, you can say, okay, he wants to go and see the baby seal, so let's go and do that, and he feels like he's had an input as well. And I just wanted to stress, actually, if you do get more people involved, you do get huge benefits from it as well. So it's a good point I wanted to stress.
Yeah. Well, one kind of bit of advice, I guess, around getting kids involved, though, is just remember that Sharpies are permanent, and
yes,
they don't come off oak furniture, they don't come off sisters' faces, and but it's a great idea. I have a bunch of post-it notes and pens where the kids can get to them really easily, and you do find that they just naturally just pick them up and go and start sticking ideas on the wall, which is great. So we are around for a few questions if people have anything, if you want to stick something in the QA. If not, we'll give it a couple of minutes and we'll call it a day because we're a bit over.
Helen's got to go. It was one of the things that I took away. We posted it recently because we have these sessions. We do have these sessions like quite a lot, actually, when we're just thinking of stuff at home. But then I saw your car park idea and I thought, actually, that's genius, because it's always there then, isn't it? You don't have to kind of facilitate anything. It's
one thing that's good for is that now I've got 4 kids, and they've all got different lives. So the older ones live in different time zone to everybody else. But it still means that they can contribute. You don't necessarily need them. It's a bit like distributed working, right? It's like they're awake from the hours of like 11 in the morning till like 3 at night, and the little ones are at school by 8 o'clock. So yeah, it's a good way to capture. Okay, I don't think we've got any questions, and people need to go. So thank you very much for coming. I think next month. Tell us about next month, Yvette, before we go.
Yeah, so next month we've got some visual thinkers as well. So we've got Paddy and Grant coming to give us a talk on how to unleash your visual superpowers. I've seen these guys in action before, and it's a really fun session, and it's really kind of hands-on and lots of little tips and stuff in regards to putting visual thinking in your day-to-day. So yeah, it's really good that they're coming. Excited about that. Yay.
Great. All right, so thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks,
Paul, for your session. Yeah. Bye.